Hi everyone. My kids are huge Rocket League fans, so I threw race car themed birthday parties for them. I made 2 car cakes, along with cupcakes and race car themed cakesicles to match the theme. I've already posted a video showing how I made the red race car cake, and in today's video, I'll walk you through how to create this fuchsia and golden race car cake, complete with headlights that can be turned on and off using a remote. We'll go through the entire process, from planning, stacking and carving the cake, to adding the headlights, and decorating the car cake with modeling chocolate. Let's get started. First, let's talk about planning ahead. You can bake your cakes ahead of time and freeze them until you're ready to use them. Whether you choose my moist vanilla or chocolate cake, either works well. For my car cake, I used 1 moist chocolate sheet cake and 2 chocolate sponge sheet cakes. The final dimensions of my cake were 23 by 33 centimeters, or 9 by 11 inches, and 17 centimeters, or about 7 inches tall. You can find the cake recipes and pan sizes I used in the video description. Note that the chocolate sponge cake can be trickier to carve than the moist chocolate cake, but I made it work since it's my son's favorite. For all my 3D custom cakes, I create templates to make carving and shaping easier. For this race car cake, I used 2 33 by 48 centimeters or 13 by 19 inches cake boards to make templates. At least one of them, the one placed underneath the entire cake, should be made of thick corrugated cardboard. This type of board is strong and sturdy. The cake board placed in the middle of the cake can be a normal cardboard one as well. I placed one of the boards on a flat surface and traced the shape of the car using a pencil. I used a round cookie cutter that had the size of my wheel to cut out a slightly larger opening for each wheel. Then, I used the first cake board template to create another template from the second cake board. I also made trapezoid templates for the windshield and side windows out of parchment paper. You can find the specific sizes for all these templates at the link in the video description. Lastly, I always have printed pictures of what I want to make, whether it's a design generated with AI apps or downloaded from the internet. Make sure to have printed pictures of your design handy. Now, let's stack and fill our cake. Bake your cakes and make the frosting ahead of time. For the bottom of the car, I used the moist chocolate cake, which is great for carving. I filled the cake with seedless raspberry jam and raspberry cream cheese buttercream. I also used a vanilla and strawberry flavored sugar syrup to keep it moist. You can find the ingredients and recipes in the video description. For the top of the car, I used my son's favorite chocolate sponge cake, not as great for carving as my moist chocolate or moist vanilla cake, but I had to make it work as it's his favorite. I filled this part of the cake with chocolate ribbon buttercream, one of my favorite chocolate fillings or frostings for cakes and cupcakes. I also used a cappuccino-flavored sugar syrup to moisten the sponge cakes. First, use the template to cut the car shape from the moist chocolate sheet cake. Then, cut the cake horizontally in 2 and transfer the top layer to a separate cake board. Keep the bottom cake layer on the corrugated cardboard car template with the shiny side facing up. The cake pan I used to bake this cake was 30 by 30 centimeters or 12 by 12 inches. Since my sheet cake wasn't long enough, I had to use leftover cake to build the back of the car. If you have a rectangular cake pan that's as wide and long as your car, then you don't need this extra step. If using sugar syrup, moisten your first cake layer with syrup, then spread a thin layer of seedless raspberry jam on top. Add a layer of raspberry cream cheese buttercream, and place the second cake layer on top and moisten it again. Now let's add some support and stability to the cake. Cut boba straws or cake dowels to the height of your cake and insert them into the cake, about 3.8 centimeters or 1.5 inches away from the edge. I used 4 boba straws on one side of the car, 4 on the other side, and 2 more in the middle. Next, using the car template, cut the second sheet cake, the larger chocolate sponge cake in my case, baked in a 38 by 38 centimeter or 15 by 15 inches pan. Make sure you go as close to the edge as possible to save a big piece of the leftover cake, as this will be used to build up the back of the car. Cut the sheet cake horizontally in two and place one of them on your second car template, made out of the cardboard cake board. Spread a bit of frosting over your moist chocolate cake and the boba straws, and place the car-shaped cake board with the first layer of chocolate sponge cake on top. Moisten it with the cappuccino sugar syrup. Spread a layer of chocolate ribbon buttercream. Then place the second layer of chocolate sponge cake on top. Moisten it with cappuccino syrup. Spread another layer of chocolate ribbon buttercream. Place the last sponge cake on top to build up the car. Cut it around so that it has a similar shape as the rest of the car. Then, moisten it with syrup and insert a few boba straws to add some extra support on the back side of the car. This is because as you build your cake up, the front of the car will be slimmer than the back, so you'll need more cake at the back and less at the front. Spread some frosting, add a small rectangular cake board on top. Spread frosting on top of the board and add more sponge cake from the middle of the car to almost the back of the car, about 3.8 centimeters or 1.5 inches away from the edge. Keep building the back of the car using your cake scraps and remaining frosting. Once the cake is filled, cover it with plastic wrap and place it in the freezer for 2 hours. Freezing the cake makes it much easier to carve without it breaking apart, especially if you're using sponge cakes. Want to take your car cake to the next level? Add some wow factor with working headlights that light up and can be controlled with a remote. I used 2 mini submersible LED lights that turn on and off with a remote, giving the cake a fun, interactive twist. To keep things safe, I wrapped the back and sides of these LED lights in press and seal plastic wrap. This ensures that the parts inserted into the cake stay free from any plastic, keeping everything clean and cake-friendly. Now that our headlights are prepped, let's carve and cover the car cake with chocolate ganache. First, make your chocolate ganache using the recipe in the video description. Cover it with plastic wrap, touching the surface to prevent condensation from forming, and allow it to cool until it reaches a thick pouring consistency. Now it's time to carve. Using a serrated knife, start shaping the cake into a car. I didn't use any particular templates for this part other than the base cake board template, but I always refer to my car picture for guidance. Don't be afraid to cut into the cake to make more pronounced shapes. The angles and shapes will look less drastic once you cover the cake in modeling chocolate. I made the area around the wheel as high as the wheel itself, actually a bit taller. However, if you want the car and wheel placement to look even more realistic, with the chassis appearing lifted off the cake board, make the wheel cavity about 2/3 of the height of the wheel. Then, follow the instructions in my other red race car tutorial to create a floating cake board that gives your car cake a more authentic, elevated look. Use the tip of a small serrated knife to carve out the space for the headlights. Make sure you make the cavity slightly bigger than your LED lights so that there is enough room to ganache the cake and insert the lights in afterwards. Note that your car-shaped cake board needs to be visible as you carve the cake. You need to leave enough space so that you can cover the cake with ganache, with the modeling chocolate, and add the car design details made out of the modeling chocolate. Everything needs to sit on the cake board, so you should leave at least 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch of cake board around the carved cake. Use the cake scraps to fill in any gaps and build up areas like the car hood. Then, chill the cake in the fridge for an hour. Crumb coat the cake with a thin layer of chocolate ganache using a small offset spatula. Refrigerate for an hour, then apply another layer of ganache and smooth it out. Chill the cake a bit more. Insert the LED headlights in and crumb coat the cake with a final layer of chocolate ganache, smoothing it out as much as possible. Keep the cake in the fridge until the chocolate hardens. Test your headlights to make sure they work properly before you start covering your cake in modeling chocolate or fondant. Now onto the fun part, giving this cake some color. I covered the cake in modeling chocolate, but you can use fondant too. I prefer working with modeling chocolate as it's easier to cover the cake in sections and hide the seams. It also doesn't dry out as quickly as fondant. Plus, it's much more delicious. You will need fuchsia, yellow, and black modeling chocolate. Check the video description for the quantities required. I used satin ice modeling chocolate, but there are other brands too. If needed, use a bit of modeling chocolate to build up the fender or wheel arch before covering the cake in modeling chocolate. I carved this area a bit too much, so had to fix my mistake. Knead your modeling chocolate until it's nice and pliable. Dust your work surface with cornstarch and roll out the fuchsia modeling chocolate to cover the back of the car. You can use a ruler to measure the part of the car that you want to cover, then cut the rolled modeling chocolate accordingly. Place the rolled modeling chocolate on the cake and use a fondant smoother or the palm of your hand to smooth it out. If you have any excess modeling chocolate, trim the edges using an X-Acto knife or any sharp knife. Next, use your parchment paper templates to trace and cut the windshield and side windows from rolled black modeling chocolate. Place them on the cake. Roll out and cut thin strips of yellow modeling chocolate to cover the seams. Use the fondant smoother and your fingers to smooth out the seams. The warmth of your hand will slightly melt the chocolate and make the seams hardly visible. Continue rolling and cutting the modeling chocolate, covering your race car cake in sections, and replicating as many of the design elements as you want based on your car picture. Use the warmth of your fingers and fondant modeling tools to smooth out any visible seams. The chocolate will slightly melt, and the seams will blend in and won't be visible much. Use edible glue to attach any small parts to the car. Now let's add the final details. I wanted to make the car shiny, so I used a fluffy brush to add some gold luster dust to the yellow parts of the car and some other purplish one to the fuchsia parts of the car. However, I ruined a bit the look of the car as I placed the cake in the fridge after covering it in modeling chocolate, and when I took it out, condensation formed on the surface of the cake. I did not have the patience or time to fix the condensation problem, so I got some smudges instead of a nice finish. Ideally, you should brush the cake with the luster dust right after covering your cake in modeling chocolate and before placing it in the fridge. Or use these tips to prevent or get rid of the condensation if it forms on your fondant or modeling chocolate-covered cakes. Here's how nice and shiny the brushed luster dust looks on a dry piece of modeling chocolate versus the smudges you get when condensation forms on the modeling chocolate. I made the tires and rims using black modeling chocolate. You can make these ahead of time. Check out my other video tutorial linked in the top right corner to see how to make tires for car cakes using a simple circle cutter and a soccer ball silicone mold. Do a last test to make sure your car tires fit in the space available. I had to slightly lower the existing wheel arch for this side of the car. Then I made wheel arches out of black modeling chocolate to fill in the bigger gap and also match my printed car design. Next, I placed each tire on the cake. Use edible glue if needed to attach all these car parts to the cake. And voila, the final product. I hope you found this tutorial useful. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel.